My word is peccadillo. Peccadillo. Well, in modern usage, a peccadillo is a little vice or a little habit that's forgivable but not quite nice. If somebody, for example, likes to pick their nose in public and isn't ashamed of it, one might say, oh, well, of course, John has his little peccadillo, and because you like him otherwise, you forgive the little peccadillo, and that's perfectly okay. Of course, the origin of the word, it was much more associated with sexual preferences and perhaps sexual behaviour that wasn't quite acceptable socially, and of course, this behaviour would always be associated with a man. Women weren't supposed to have peccadillos of that nature. They were supposed to be models of absolute propriety. The word came into English in the very late 16th century, about 1585-95, at a time when most of the courtiers in the court of Queen Elizabeth would have had fluent Spanish and fluent Italian. So it would have been mother's milk to them. They would have been moving between several languages all the time as a matter of course. And in fact, the first half of the word, P-E-C-C-A-D, comes from the Italian Peccadillo, little sin. And the latter half, the tail end piece of it, I-L-L-O, comes from the Spanish Peccadillo, again meaning little sin. Un pecado in Spanish is a sin, which is a very serious matter, but a little sin is something that can quite easily be forgiven. Yeah, I've got a couple of quotes here which maybe show how the word has been used. At the beginning of the 19th century, the North American travel writer Washington Irving writes about a fictional young man going to visit his uncle, John Bull, if you don't mind, and he describes the elderly gentleman's peccadillos in this context. To do the duties of the family chapel he maintains, at a large expense, a pious and portly family chaplain. He is a most learned and decorous personage, and a truly well-bred Christian, who always backs the old gentleman in his opinions, winks discreetly at his little peccadillos, rebukes his children when refractory, and is of great use in exhorting the tenants to read their Bibles, and above all, to pay their rents punctually and without grumbling. Robert Louis Stevenson, which clarifies the distinction between what is acceptable in a man as slightly wayward behaviour and completely unacceptable in a woman. And Robert Louis Stevenson says, "What the boy does as a manly peccadillo, the girl will shudder at as a vice."
Does that mean you don't have any peccadillos?
I have, but I'm not telling you what they are. I have plenty of peccadillos, I'm sure I do. We all do. We all have little annoying habits that we're not aware of and that other people might easily describe. Oh, well, you know, so-and-so's peccadillos. And you think, what? That's not a peccadillo. That's perfectly normal behaviour. Peccadillo and peccadillo in Italian and Spanish, they're not used in modern Spanish or modern Italian anymore. The word peccato and peccado certainly are used, but they use different words for what we would mean as peccadillo now, meaning a lapse in correct moral or sexual behaviour. Well, in Spanish, the word which is used today, which would translate as what we use as peccadillo in English, is desliz. Deslizar is the verb to slip. Un desliz is a slip from the correct path or the true path. And in Italian, it's peccatuccio, so it's peccato and then the diminutive uccio on the end of it rather than ilio, just a like-for-like exchange.